Hi, my name is Michael Bean, and this is your lesson for myfreeactingclass.com for today, Monday, November the 30th. End of November already. I'm an acting teacher. I've been teaching for a little over 20 years, actually, and I've been teaching film and TV acting for the last 18 years. So I can keep forgetting to locate myself at the start of these lessons so that you know that I'm not just kind of pulling these ideas out of my hat. Today is self-tape review. So we're going to be looking at self-tapes from Melissa, who is here in the session with us today, and also from Natalia, who's from the UK, who we saw some video from just a couple of weeks ago, and you'll be able to see that in both cases, they're both already putting into practice the notes from previous Mondays. So my hope is that those of you who are here, or those of you who are watching the YouTube video, are like, oh, that's so inspiring. You mean if I sent a video that Michael Bean would talk about it on Mondays, and I could immediately apply those notes and then send another video the next week and the next? Yes, you could. And that's good for everybody. So thank you for the brave actors who contributed videos today. We can just jump right in. I'm going to very quickly go over camera technique, the basics, and I'll use me first, and then I will show you Natalia's video and Melissa's video as examples, just so you can sort of see the visual. So eye light is the light reflected in your eyes. Very important for making you seem alive on camera. If I turn mine off, then, oh, yeah, because I'm still in front of a window, you're still getting good eye light. But if let me see if I can find a spot. Yeah, right. So if I'm down here and I don't have that light reflected in my eyes, just looks kind of dead. It's the kind of thing that you never see in film and TV. It's very, very important that as an actor, you have an eye light. I'm in, right now, it's called a medium close-up. Which means that you're seeing top of my head to just below my armpits. This is the framing. If you're taping on an iPhone, or a phone, it's important that you be horizontal, so that you can get this kind of frame. You don't want a whole bunch of space over your head, etc. So that's medium close-up. So that's frame. Eye light. Eye line is the line between your eyes and what you're looking at. Currently, I've put the folks I'm talking to right there underneath my camera. So a little look more or less like I'm looking directly at you. You don't want to do that. If you are doing an audition, you want to put them off just to one side or just to the other side, which thankfully with technology, if you are recording, I mean, you can put a tape mark in your room. If you've got a real person, of course, you can move them where you want them. But if you're using something like Zoom, you can simply move the person where you want them. So eye line, eye light. Audio is of course an issue. Background is an issue. I have a piece of flexible blue fabric and a collapsible stand, but Lori, who was here the last week and the week before, her backdrop looks fantastic, and it's just a piece of wrinkle-free blue fabric, hanging from a piece of doweling at the top of her wall. It looks like Melissa's got a curtain. Plenty of people just use the wall that behind them is painted. You really do not have to have anything fancy. You just have to find that spot where the background will be clean, the eye light will be good, and you're close enough to your device that you can be heard well. So now let's take a look at, because we've got a number of scenes to look at today, I think we probably will, or my intention is just to watch the first part of each of them. So again, to really put that focus on first 20 or 30 seconds, which I think is probably the most immediately relevant with a self-tape, is what kind of assessment are folks making right at the beginning? Is it technically proficient? And sort of what are they deciding about you? What are they deciding about the character? So I'll go through some of those, and then we can, and then if you have questions, I'm happy to take questions about them. I also have the script for Natalia's scene that we're going to look at first. And what might actually be kind of fun is to read that first and then look at the top of the tape. But then I would need volunteers to read with me. Melissa, I can probably rope you into reading. Okay. What about you? Candy's working. What about you, Claudine, Maria? How do you feel about unmuting and contributing your voices? Okay. If there's not a chorus of enthusiastic yes, then maybe we will pause that for now. So, but I will show you the script first. So rather than read it, at least I will show it to you. Oh, I thought I had it all queued up, and of course I have closed it. Okay, here it is. So here's the first scene. Given it a code name because this is something that's currently casting, and we don't want to get anybody in trouble. Like I will reiterate for you, and anybody who's considering submitting a self-tape, that this falls within fair use under Canadian copyright law because this is educational purposes, and especially showing like a piece of the script and self-tape is fine. And why not be extra careful and just remove the name of the project? So we've got the description of the character: Fiona, female, an exhausted, harried mum. She's signed up for a helpful baby workshop she's heard good things about. She's very surprised it's run by Thane, a 15-year-old goth boy. She's outspoken in her criticism. So this is the actual breakdown for the character. You can see it's a little bit different from the breakdowns that we typically get in the US and in Canada. The ones that kind of are sort of breakdown services standard. This one is from the UK. So that's just my guess. That's why it is coming across different. Interior: Hugh's home. Thane's room: continuous. Thane is losing his cool and his parents. He posts a new image. Okay, the main idea of Thanetics is that babies are like animals. Mine sure is. Parents laugh. They pick up on tension. They pick up everything. They put it right in their mouth. Parents laugh again. You just have to relax with them. Be yourself. And here's the character, Fiona. Sorry, be yourself? What do you think I'm being with my baby? Ed Sheeran? And so the what we have off the top of the scene, is Fiona doesn't have any lines. That it's a Zoom workshop, which we had, here in the breakdown, helpful baby workshop. And then we look at this. Okay, so she's exhausted. She's harried. The parents are getting frustrated, and there's this 15-year-old goth boy who's trying to teach them about babies. Right, we've got outspoken inner criticism. So exhausted, harried, outspoken inner criticism. Very surprised to see it's run by Thane. We probably don't have the moment where like she sees that it's Thane for the first time. But we've got some bits in the breakdown and in the script to help us shape those first 20 to 30 seconds. And so here is Natalia's first scene.
Okay, the main idea of phonetics is that babies are like animals. Mine sure is. They pick up on tension. They pick up everything and put it right in their mouth.
Oh, yeah.
You just have to relax with them. Be yourself.
Sorry. Be yourself? So, who am I with my baby? Ed Sheeran?
And so one of the things that Natalia told me in her email was that they asked for it, in actors, I think, I can't remember exactly how they framed it, but basically they asked that actors do it in their own accent. And so she chose to play up her accent, or sort of make it a little bit stronger, on purpose, for the audition. So you can see, that she's got this, in terms of the basic camera technique, we've got a good eyelight here. She is, again, the camera's probably a little too far away from her, that we're seeing more space over her head, than we need. If this was me, I would suggest zooming it in closer, so that we were just seeing that head and shoulders just down to about armpit level, because then we're going to see more of her eyes. It's going to seem like she is sort of more emotionally connected. She has this fun bit of business that is not at all in the script that she wrote in, of like, I don't know, checking to see that it's breastfeeding time, maybe, but sort of like very specific kind of like mom behavior at the beginning. And so you can see that she's thinking about it, right? Like she's making some creative choices here. She's put in a little ad lib line, over top of the lines in the beginning, which I think is always allowed, sound or words. As long as it's just one or two words, especially if the focus is on you, those kind of ad libs I think are totally allowed. And so just in terms of like camera setup or technical, my notes on this sort of top, what do we look at, 40 seconds, technically, is zoom it in a little bit closer. The adjusting of the shirt unfortunately gave us some like rustling with the microphone, and so that would be worth sort of thinking about. I know that if I was editing this, I might drag it into iMovie, and you can even like pull out a piece of the audio and be like, take the audio down. So if after the fact you're like, oh, rustling in the microphone, that's actually something that is fairly easy to correct when you're editing later. You could also zoom in, like you can crop in on video, which if you watch the self-tape review from last Monday, you can, I did that with one of the tapes that was shared with us, and so you can see what that looks like. It is a fairly straightforward process. It would, even if you are like, technology, one of the barriers for most movie editing programs is that they have so many options, but the number of options that you're actually going to use as an actor is so small, that once you get past that barrier and you sort of learn your 4 things, you don't need to think about all the rest of the things. I would say that this top of the scene, most of my, so I do actually have one technical note, which is that her reader is very, very slow. Like he's giving her lots of space, and for all I know, that's something that they discussed on purpose, that she asked him for that extra space. But I suspect that this is the reader, because it sounds like the same reader as I heard in the tape that she sent in 2 weeks ago. And so I would say that the reader needs to do less, right? Like just simple, do just facts, and right, that he's being very animated in this way that sometimes I'm listening to the reader, and also he's just leaving these enormous pauses that then she is having to fill. Now, it may be that this is just like who she's quarantined with and sort of who she's got available. One of the things that I want to put in a good word for today is this website called We Audition that I've explored a little bit and I have been using recently. And I actually just met with or I had a video call with one of the guys who runs it today. He approached me and we chatted for a little bit. So that's this website right here. And if you are an actor and have a membership, which I do, then you can go on here and browse all of the readers who are currently available. And so you can, and then you can sort of see all of the folks that are right. So all of these folks are currently online, and I can click on any one of them and be like, okay, interesting. Like, what's her rate? Up to 30 minutes, et cetera, et cetera. And some people are reading for tips, and some people are some people's rate is $5 and some is $50. Like you can sort of browse around and see reviews and people's experiences are IMDb credits. But having a professional actor as a reader can make a huge difference, and I think is one of the things that would sort of most significantly have impacted Natalia's tape in this case, is if her reader had more experience. The other thing is that we've got in the breakdown, and this is sort of more of an acting note, but we've got in the breakdown that she is sort of very surprised to find this goth boy leading the class. And I'm not seeing a lot of that like strong opinion of the other person. It's also because this is Zoom, like you could even sort of get playful with it, and like you could record it on Zoom, or you could sort of at least you could set it up, like a Zoom call. Normally I don't recommend um, doing anything that's going to give you a more confusing background, but like she could have sort of sat down, or had some like kid like prop to fiddle with. But in this first 40 seconds, what I'm not seeing is like strong, clear opinion of the guy. And this, so I'm just going to play it back to you so you can see that what I'm talking about. And hear some of those long spaces that her reader is giving her that she's doing a great job of trying to cover for. But if those weren't there, I think that it would flow much better, and that she would be able to be sort of even more at ease with it. Okay, so now watching it again now, like we do have, this, right? Sorry about the unflattering freeze frame, Natalia, right? So we do have that's like strong, clear opinion, but I think because there isn't a clear eye line first, for goth guy, that story, even though the choice is there, the story is not coming through super clear. So maybe it is, strictly being a technical thing. Yeah, and so I would say that if I was helping coach this audition, start with the keyboard or something, and then look up, see the guy right there beside the camera, and have your reaction there, sort of fully where we can see that, right? So that there's a clear like I'm doing a thing, okay, logging on. Whoa, what goth boy? Opinion, and that takes you into the next thing. That would be my advice on the top of a scene like that. Also, I would say that it's possible that the reader, because they've got their lines, could have been doing their lines over top of this physical action. Now, one of the things that's really wonderful here is that Natalia, the last tape that she showed us, was very, very still. And my main feedback there was like, it's just so still, it's hard to believe you're a real person in a place doing a thing. That's not at all true of this. So she really has made a substantial change in terms of, her like ease and bringing in that little bit of movement, even though, yeah, it means that sometimes, the mic is a little, it wiggles a little bit, or the focus, wiggles a little bit, but we're seeing more of a person in a place doing a thing.
Okay, the main idea of phonetics is that babies are like animals.
Right, so see, the reader is very slow.
Mine sure is.
Right, and then he leaves an enormous space between the end of his line and the responding line. So she's doing a great job of covering, but she's having to cover. Whereas, so if that reaction had been much, much faster because the lines were closer together, I think she would have looked better. And so thinking about your reader, I think is one more thing to bring in. We won't spend as much time with it, but so we'll look quickly at her second scene.
See, this is my sister, Bonnie, sleeping blissfully.
But you didn't do that.
She came in here like that.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I could sleep like that.
I know.
Right, so again, she's throwing in these little ad libs, and if her reader was just picking up the pace a little bit, then that back and forth, I think, would come across like more easily and simply. Let's take a look at Melissa's tape. So, Melissa's are all on YouTube. We've got characters Heather, and there's 2 takes of 2 different scenes. So we'll be able to see a little bit of that thing that I think we saw in Melissa's tape from last week, which was, what is it like when you're doing 2 different takes of the same project. So, scene 1, take 1.
6 meters. Get your leg arsenic vape cloud away from my building.
Okay, I gotta say that particularly for somebody who's like really focusing on accent work, having to say lead arsenic vape cloud, like that's a tough one. You know, so um, the fact that the accent, you know, is still coming through more clearly, and you're working with really complex text here, you know, I think is progress, right? That I think I've said this here in this lesson before, but like one of Melissa's focuses right now is to get a standard American accent, you know, to the point where she can choose to speak in the German accent, but it doesn't, you know, sort of automatically color the text, you know, and that is depending on where an actor is in their progress. Like if somebody's starting from scratch, that's probably like a 1 year of really hard work, you know, or like 2 years of still like pretty solid work before, you know, they can do scenes, you know, and have the folks listening not know that they are not a sort of native English speaker, you know, or a North American English speaker. Eyelight's nice and clear. We got a shadow in the center of the face, you know, so there's looks like the lighting is on both sides. Just something, because this is more of a studio light setup, something to be aware of, you know, that that looks like those lights were sort of positioned on the sides, and one of them could have been moved more center. You know, it's a small thing, but that's why you're here, hopefully, is to keep getting these little details technically. Framing's good, you know, top the head to just below the armpits, you know, could be a little bit closer. But really, I think that's a matter of choice. You know, this framing also is totally fine and appropriate for an audition.
I'm sorry, ma'am.
You must be 6 meters off the property line if you want to melt your lungs with that toxic mess. You should know better. Complacency.
And so that it's that moment, you know, acting wise, that I was particularly interested in. So it looks to me, and I haven't seen the script, but it looks to me like sort of the garbage man who's, you know, vaping with her friend is supposed to leave, and then her friend is supposed to come over. And so Melissa's sort of covering for that transition, which likely on the script is sort of marked with a scene transition. By sort of like taking a beat and turning out, you know, and technically, I think that the way to tell that story more clearly would have been to watch one guy leave and then come back to the eyeline, you know. So telling that story sort of more clearly, you know, even if it meant like adjusting slightly what's in the script, would have been like, I'm talking to you and your friend, I'm talking to you and your friend, and then the guy who I'm really mad at is going to leave, and I'm going to track him sort of along the wall as opposed to like through the air till he's all the way over there. And then I'm going to turn back and talk to you about like that guy who just left. So then we're using both sides of the camera, those two different eye lines, making it very, very clear there's two different people that I have different relationships with. You know, that sort of would be my advice technically going into that. Here's scene 1, take 2. You can see in this one, she decided to be a lot more aggressive off the top.
6 meters. Get your lead arsenic vape cloud away from my building.
Oh, and let me see if I can catch it. I know it'll be like a slightly unflattering freeze frame, but I just wanted to point this out because this is something that happened in both Natalia's tape and Melissa's tape, just how significant people's eyes are, and particularly when extra tension goes into this sort of white space all around the eyes. It's something that's really worth paying attention to, mostly because it's unflattering and it's really noticeable. It also happens to be a micro expression that says fear, you know, typically is this, you know, and I know some people who just like, this is how their eyes normally look, you know, and they have to like sort of do this incredibly effortful, you know, training to move that tension somewhere else, like somewhere that they can notice it or move through it. But like most physical tension that shows up in a scene, you know, then most physical tension that shows up in a scene, my approach as an acting teacher typically is, rather than try and like do face choreography, like control how it looks, to just notice it, to be like, oh yeah, right, of course. I'm doing this technical thing, I'm doing this complex thing. Tension is going to show up. If you can notice it, then usually you can just by noticing it, address it. And so they bring it to your attention for that reason.
Sorry, man.
You must be 6 meters off the property line if you want to melt your lungs with that toxic mess. You should know better.
So one of the things that I think is so fun about these is that she's giving herself permission to play in a way that is, yes, possibly experiences more theatrical, but is more expressive. And so she's doing 2 takes, and those 2 takes are different. I'm getting some. There we go. Sorry, Candy, I just had to remute you. You must have unmuted yourself by accident. Scene 2, take 1.
So these smart mirrors. Look at me like you look at your phone.
And I would say that it's this looks to me like her eyeline is directly at the camera. So I'm sure my guess is that the intention was to have the eyeline very close to camera, but I would say that in this case, it's almost a little bit too close, because it looks to me sort of at first glance that she's looking directly at the lens. So many technical things, right, with this, right? Eyelight, the backdrop's nice and clean, framing's right, sounds good.
That was the best. And who wrote something about we all put on our picture faces?
Oh, that was mine.
Good, save it. And I want one more for the luxury line that's like the exterior reflects the interior.
Okay, and then so that's one impression of the character. And one of my main notes for Melissa after watching her tape last week was, if you're going to do 2 different takes, make sure they're really different. And so just watch how different these are. So sort of immediate implementation of the note.
So these smart mirrors. That was the best. And then who wrote something about we all put on our picture faces?
Oh, that was mine.
Good, save it. And then I want one more for the luxury line that's like.
Right, so she's more physical, she's more animated, she's enjoying herself. In terms of like having 2 different takes, they're very distinct. And then my advice would be to sort of look at both, go like, which one is the version of this character that I really want, and then lead with that one. I will even say, and this has come up in some of our casting director workshops, that if you are doing an audition scene that has multiple scenes, so let's say that there's like scene 1, scene 2, scene 3, but like scene 2 is like the one that you're just like, yeah, this one, I feel it, and it's better for the character, or it's better for me. You can put them out of order, right? Especially given how important the first 20 or 30 seconds are in terms of them making a decision about like, who is this Melissa person and what is her take on this character? That if I've got, 2 or 3 scenes, and I think that like, what, me and Melissa are working together, and I'm like, what, scene 2, it's so perfect. It's so great. It's more interesting. It's further into the story. There's more stuff going on. Like, let's lead with scene 2 and just put the scenes out of order. Totally allowed, right? That as long as you're putting all those scenes there, if you put them out of order, I really don't think that it is in any way an issue. My note for this one is not about technical at all. Like I think the technical you totally hit there, and you really took the note from last week, of giving 2 different takes. And so in terms of doing a self tape for the sort of the next one, I would say like, find that animation because it lit you up in a way that was so fun to watch, and then once you've got that animation, then drop it back and let it be simpler, right? That, because the animation has a great effect on you and does come across slightly theatrical. I'll also say I think, in my opinion, on both scenes, your pacing is a little bit slow, which to me just looks like you're still just having to think about the lines, a little bit more than you would like. Is that accurate? Maybe. Okay, good. Well, and if that's not the case, well, then it would be really easy to adjust. Then you could be like, cool, I'm going to find all the fun. I'm going to find that physical behavior, because giving it more energy and letting it be more theatrical in exploring it on purpose can give you tons of fun physical behavior. And, I hope that those of you who are watching like really saw that in the scene, right? She's so much more physically animated in this one, where we're seeing so much more of what's going on, with in her body, in her hands, and so in terms of exploration, fantastic exercise. And so keep that, and then drop it back to sort of a more conversational volume or a more conversational tone, and then you get the best of both worlds. You get the physical expressiveness and the clarity that comes from those choices, and kind of being more specific or more bold about, like, here's my opinion of these things. Here's the like sort of the funny voices your character chose to use, for some of the suggestions people had made. And then if you can drop it back into that conversational volume, then possibly we get both the like ease and believability and the expressiveness in the animation, which is something that I think has come up here in these lessons, that these two things pull in opposite directions, like expressiveness, and the ease or believability. And so when doing exercises, it can be really useful, or when exploring material, it can be really useful to go all the way one way. Okay, phew, just ease, just facts. And all the way the other way, okay, like wildly expressive, bah, big, doesn't matter, like lots of volume, lots of energy, because both are going to inform your finished product. So does anybody have questions about any of the things that I have said about these tapes, or anything that's come up for you around any of these notes? I know we're a couple of minutes over, but I'm happy to answer questions if you got them. Okay. Thanks for showing up on a Monday. I will be here Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I'm still figuring out who our guest is going to be on Thursday. The plan tomorrow is to look at scripts, and so to do some script analysis and go over some more detail there. So that's going to be later this week, and I'm hoping that that Kira Zagorski can join us on Thursday, because we've been emailing back and forth, and she is amazing and living in New York right now, and has been a lead on a series a couple of times. She's pretty badass. All right, thanks everyone. See you at the next one.